and we're good.
Perfect. So, so today's talk is about DevSecOps, kickstarting DevSecOps program with open source tools. Why and how to build it, how it can be developer friendly and embedded into the culture. There are so many things that we've been speaking about DevSecOps, like we should be doing this, we should be doing that. Now let's talk a bit about how we can kickstart the journey, and especially with open source tools. Hmm. A bit about myself. I am quite passionate about the community and try to spend quite a lot of my free time contributing to various initiatives. I'm one of the global board of directors at OWASP. I run a diversity initiative in India that's called InfoSec Girls, which is spread across India and few other parts. We are soonish coming into London as well. I've also been co-authored some of the books. This is about myself. Like I just bragged a bit more. So, um, back to the topic. Before we started talking about DevOps or DevSecOps, organizations executed the product security checks at the final stages of SDLC. Even we did it. I've worked with many organizations who've actually checked the software in the end, and we had to stop the release because of some security issues, and we were called like the showstopper or like the bottleneck in every place. So before, when the focus was predominantly was on application development, this truly meant the security was deemed to be less important than the actual other stages which were part of this whole cycle: planning, designing, implementing, and going on till the end. By the time security engineers perform the security checks, the product would have already passed every stage and almost have been developed, or I would say that would have developed. So that was the case. Now, discovering that there is a security threat in the later stage meant reworking countless hours, lines of code, and agonizingly laborious, time consuming thing. And there was one instance wherein I remember stopping the release, which was one important release the very next day, but there was one severe SQL injection which was there, and they were literally uh, getting angry or agitated that can you please let us go, but this was very critical bug, so we could not let it. There are cases wherein we've accepted, but there are some cases where you cannot do it. So this was the case, and the security was viewed merely as a gut feeling, like nothing would go wrong even if we don't have security in our SDLC. So rather than investing the necessary time and money to correct the pipeline, people were just going ahead with that. Then came DevOps. People started actually talking about it a few years back, that yes, we need to have DevOps, we need to have the websites developed as early as possible. They should be going to production. So that kind of culture started coming in. And earlier, development team was working on their own, operations team was working on their own pace, and then security was any which ways was never in the whole picture. They were sitting in their own room thinking that they are the kings, so or queens. So that was the thing. But now when organization understood that yes, we need dev ops in the modern way of delivering the applications, which needs to be faster and with a higher quality to meet the actual needs of the business. Because if I want an application today, if it's developed after 1 year, what could go wrong? All the code would be might be redundant, or there'll be libraries which will might be old. So the need of DevOps emerged from a common organizational NT pattern of a siloed development and operations team to a joint DevOps team. Now the point was that how to build security into it. So that's what we are going to talk about. Now, this is what a lot of security researchers thinks, that role of today's security researcher is just cleaning what DevOps is pooping up, which is not the case. We all know. And being in security, I understand what are the challenges which the DevOps team face, dev team face, operations team face, because I've worked very closely with them. And we need to avoid the kind of conflict that we often see. And people actually tend to overlook that conflict as well. Now, that's when there's a blame game that happens. That if there's a bug that comes in production, and especially if there's a critical bug, people will think that whose mistake was that? Security, dev, ops. So there has to be like a rhythm, but then there's a blame game that's still happening. But this is what we want, wherein we all want a harmony, working together. Development teams were generally focused on delivering new applications. Now we all when we are talking about working in harmony, we know what development teams are working on, what operations teams are doing, what are the things that goes behind, and how security team is checking. I know a lot of good developers who've actually built security products. So we can understand that how much security is important for them too. And when we start talking about what is DevOps, if some of you don't know, but I am sure that a lot of people or most of you would know, because it's DevSecOpsDays UK. And in my perspective, it's about integrating security into the DevOps pipeline, or having a meaningful security in the DevOps pipeline. So, security is everyone's responsibility, not mine, not everyone else's, but all of ours. So, the goal is to incorporate security into all the stages, wherein it does not look like that security is coming as an external factor, but it's part of our own culture. We are integrating tools which are necessary by evaluating, by discussing. Now, this is how we can integrate security to create DevSecOps with what you call it as, or like people call it as DevOps with security. So, what are the core principles that we start off with? We start off with automation, with culture, with measurements and sharing. So all these things that I've talked about, that cannot be achieved if we do not take it forward. We don't work towards building something which is really meaningful. And buying all those commercial tools, all those heavy money tools, is it so easy? I don't think so. Especially think about if you're a startup or a student who is learning about DevSecOps or DevOps. Is it easy to just go ahead and buy the tool? No, even for an enterprise, it takes a huge amount of effort to go ahead and buy a tool, because you need to get the funding, you need to get the approval, you need to have a sponsor for that. That's like one important aspect. So we need to start taking it further. So this is a DevSecOps framework that I feel that should be there, and I am sure most of you agree to it, that yes, these are some of the stages which are there, or these are most of the stages which are there as part of the DevOps pipeline or DevSecOps, wherein we start off with the requirements gathering. When we are discussing, yes, these are the requirements that should be there, and then we start talking about threat modeling, that yes, threat modeling is one important aspect that can reduce a lot of bugs. I remember starting understanding DevSecOps or threat modeling, to be precise, around 10 years back. So when started off with threat modeling, I remember that it was just a checklist that we were doing. So there was one risk management tool where we were doing the threat modeling and coming up with the risk profile of an application, because that was a client requirement. But over the period of years, or over the years, it has changed a lot, wherein organizations have automated the job, and that too understanding what their environment is. Even in the cloud, there are so many open source projects which are helping doing the threat modeling, and understanding what exactly is there in our application, how much severe it is. If for God's sake, nothing should happen, but if something happens to our application, what will be the severity, how much severe that impact would be. Now once we have done threat modeling, we're doing the code reviews, and not just the code reviews, but the secure code reviews, find the flaws at the earliest. And as per the study, if there's a bug that we are fixing late in the life cycle, it will cost us more, or I would say 100 times more than what we would see if we would start fixing it early in the life cycle. If there are bugs that can be fixed in the code review phase, why do we need to wait till the end to get that fixed? And when, let's say, a developer who understand, yes, this is what security is, and they can start working towards it. Or the core principles that we started off with, automation. And once we have automation set, we can start actually understanding, okay, these are the bugs, this is a false positive, this is a false negative, or how should we handle it. Then comes vulnerability testing and defect tracking, defensive controls, what are them. So all these things we're going to be talking about in today's session. Let's start with the requirements gathering, and why do we actually need something which can help us in the requirements gathering. So think about, like, someone comes up, a client comes up and say that yes, these are the requirements that I want in my application, or even if there's a new application that's building up from scratch. So how would you start working towards that? So a typical DevOps process flow through all those stages, wherein security requirement or security requirements gathering is the utmost important, because if we don't understand the requirements, how will we develop an application, or what will be developed? Or the end product, we've seen some memes around that there's a horse which is a very nice horse, but then the outcome would be something else which is like all messed up. This is what we really don't want. So why not having a requirements gathering system which actually understand it and automate the requirements, or which has something already built in, and we understand when we start having discussions around requirements gathering, we say that, look, okay, a client is mentioning this, and in the product, these things are required. And if we have an automation system like security rat, which is requirement automation tool, that can assist us with the problem of all those security requirements during the application phase itself, when we are speaking about it, and when we are taking a note of it. And even if there is a requirement that changes, that can be modified, that can be mapped accordingly. And there's another amazing project that I've been working on lately, and I've been understanding it, is security knowledge framework, which is totally kind of a suite of multiple things which I'll be taking you through. So this is amazing list of requirements built in that an application might have. Let's say for banking, there are certain requirements, generally you have it in banking software. So but there are hundreds of requirements which are there, and then you can build on top of it what you need, or you can just pick and choose from that and then select that, okay, this is my requirement and I should go ahead and start using it. How good is that? Rather than just going through the Excel sheet, which might change by versions, which might change by design, and then you will be like, which version I was using, what is the one that I should be using. And especially when we are living in DevOps world, DevSecOps world, agile world, requirements do change very frequently, and agile itself means fail fast. So when you fail fast, you understand, okay, this is the requirement which did not work out for me, and I am going to be changing, I'm going to be using something different, something or I'm going to change my route towards something, some other requirement. So these kind of open source projects can really help, wherein you can just pick it up and start using in your organization, in your own projects. And I discuss a lot with the students who say that I want to be part of AppSec pipeline, I want to understand AppSec. So these are some basic open source projects which actually can give you good view about the requirements that can be there in an application or in a software product. Now, when we come to threat modeling, so threat modeling, this is one great product which is called a Threat Dragon. So threat modeling is, if you don't know, it's the process of discovering potential security vulnerabilities in the design and eliminating those vulnerabilities early, even before writing the code. So Threat Dragon does the same thing, wherein it actually maps all the requirements in a diagram or DFD, like, which is, you have a flow diagram, and can give you a good graphical pictures that where can be the problem. So all those red highlights, if you see on the right hand side, they are the concerns which might be there in an application. So we should be concentrating on them and start resolving all those issues even before we are sharing these things with the development team. Then comes Pytium. Now, this is again another threat modeling wonderful project. And this is again an automation piece with the Python. Now, you must be thinking that I have no clue about Python. I've never worked on Python. So you don't need to have like in-depth knowledge about Python. Even if you have a brief understanding on the flows, that how the development works, And it has a beautiful code which you can go through, and then you have to provide certain inputs about your cloud platform or your environment, and it does its job. It builds a data flow diagram and gives you all you need in different formats, if you want to show it to the leadership, if you want to show it to the architects or any other team. Now, another important aspect that I want to talk about is that if you want to know more about the project, on my YouTube channel, I've specifically, I'm releasing these open source projects every week. And I'm talking about it for like 10-15 minutes and even discussing it with the leaders. So you can go through that. Now, when we talk about code reviews, it's imperative that we understand how the code has been built and what are the flaws that can be there. So, security coding best practices is very much important, and a code and build phase is where security and component creation combine. So, it's where the benefits of shift left a strategy with security as a code, or integrations can be truly experienced. Getting a real time feedback on vulnerabilities and code weaknesses at development actually can empower us or developers to make informed decisions that, okay, this is my code, I've checked the security bugs, now this is how my code looks. So it's very important to understand our own environment, and by considering the threats and risks, a system can be architected securely. So people have started talking about security by design or secure system by designs. So year over year we see vulnerabilities like SQL injection in a lot of applications. There's a huge amount, and in 2018 it was the same, in 2020 it is the same, and even in the 2006. So we are not getting better, or even if I say that we are getting better, but then we're not winning the war. We're still facing a lot of vulnerabilities. So while we are building more secure application, it takes more than 100 days to fix a vulnerability or even more. And another important aspect is the vulnerabilities which are less important, or people say that not very, very important, take 200 days to remediate. And in these days, we don't know that less important vulnerability has become a critical vulnerability. And this is an experience with me wherein we started understanding that what is there in the environment. We started speaking with the developers, and um, uh, we realized that we need to work together to have a good system in place, because we all have the same similar goal. So there was one bug which was marked as a medium bug, and then at the later stage there was a big release that happened, and due to which that bug became a critical bug. So we had to address that bug at the earliest. Now, um, shift left or DevSecOps is central to the desire, wherein we need to fix the bugs earliest. And when we talk about reducing the code, reducing the amount of money or cost that we are spending on it, secure code review can actually help us. Now, how would I do it? So, Code Pulse is one project which actually can help us. And if you can see on the right hand side that like this is a beautiful graphical system or a window which can say that this is how much we have covered, this is how we need to cover. And there's a continuous challenge which we face, especially with the pen testers, that how much coverage we have done for an application, and similarly for developers. So Code Plus is a glass box tool that provide insights into the real time code coverage of penetration testing. And it can also present the coverage information in a visual format like this, if you can see. And the real time coverage feedback makes it easy for us to adjust testing activity based on the whole observed coverage. And another important thing is, like, I love checklist. So I keep creating checklists that, okay, if this is a code or this is an application, this is how I should be testing, so that I don't miss on anything. So there are some amazing checklists which actually can help in the code review, like cheat sheet series, go secure coding. So these are some specific, like the cheat sheet series is basically a good defensive project wherein it talks about that, okay, this is the vulnerable code, this is a vulnerability, this is how it should be, this is might be the impact, and this is how you should fix it. So I am in love with cheat sheet series project. And before I actually looked into it, I was thinking that it'll be like any other cheat sheet, like where you get the attack vectors. But no, now when we are talking from the defensive perspective, DevSecOps pipeline perspective, this is one cheat sheet series. I think I would suggest you to look at it. And again, if we talk about Go Code specific checklist is Go Secure Coding checklist, which you should go and check it out, because we do make common mistakes where especially we talk about new programming languages. There are so many coming up, so understanding each language is quite humanly not possible. So why not having some checklist which can guide us through? And uh, so if you see, these are some other projects that I've listed which can help us with specific languages, like Bandit can help with Python, Brixman can help with the Ruby on Rails, CodeSnake Dawn can help us with Ruby on Rails, so Finebugs can help us with Java, and so on and so forth. So I will be sharing all these. So I'll be sharing this presentation after this session. You can take a look at it. You can share your feedback. If there's any other project that you want me to add on to it, do let me know. But these checklists, these projects do help us out in doing the secure code review. And then few other pre-commit hooks which are there, which can actually give us sensitive information such as AWS keys, access tokens, SSH keys, etc., are often enormously I would say that these things are very important, and if they are leaked via public source code repositories due to accidental git commits or could be any other reason, that can be a big problem. So why not leveraging these open source project tools, and can check the sensitive information in the files before even committing or pushing the activity. So these are some of the pre-commit hooks that we can use. I've used Talisman, I've used Git Secrets, I've used Trufflehog, which is really amazing. So you can start using it and access it. Now, there's one important thing sometimes we tend to miss. It's like we have a code base, we are scanning it, but then we're not checking the code which we are pulling from the public repositories. So think about, like, we have a code which we have used and we have checked it. Now it's all good, but then there's a developer who's working on some code and building the whole structure of the code, and suddenly there is a library which is missing, and the developer downloads it from the internet. Now when that's downloaded, is there anyone who knows that what library he downloaded or she downloaded? And after a while, the developer moves to the different team, and nobody knows that the file is there, the library is there, or doesn't remember. That happens quite often if there's a huge code. So finding that one library could be a challenge. And now the library, there's a new version has come up, and the old version had some flaws, so that can be a big problem. We have seen a lot of attacks or hacks that have happened to the softwares because of using components with known vulnerabilities, because we know that the component is old and that can pose a risk, but we are still using it, or we even don't know in a lot of cases. So which tool can help us, which product can help us, which we can use it as a benchmark. So dependency check and dependency track are the two products which I fell in love with when I started understanding the whole software composition analysis. So open source components have become the integral part of any of the code. And there was one research study which was done by White Source. They mentioned that 96.8% of the code on the internet is open source code. So that's like increasingly widespread coverage of open source components. So now, when that's increasingly space that we have, so why not cover it? Why not check it out? So dependency check can actually help us resolve these concerns, especially for developers, security testers, or even for the operation team. It identifies the possible flaws in the open source components, check the vendor, check the product, check the version, check the finding from CVE database, and then gives the report, and then in different formats. Now you must be thinking which all it supports. So dependency check supports many languages and figured it out. I've used it on Java, I've used it on a few other projects, and it really works well. Um, for the first time you might face some concerns, but then you will see that yes, like from the delta scans, it's easy, because for the first time it downloads the whole NVD database and then maps the vulnerability, so it takes a bit of time. And then on the same lines, there's a dependency track, which is an intelligent supply chain component analysis platform that allows organizations to identify and reduce the risk early. So it has a unique approach in finding the bugs. So what it is, what are the basic features of it is basically, it can figure out of date components. It can figure out components with known vulnerabilities, or if there's a component which has been modified, if there are any license issues, which is like one big issue, and it has a huge auditing workflow for the results. Now, we have talked about requirements gathering, we've talked about threat modeling, we've talked about software composition analysis and source code review. Now, there's one important aspect is vulnerability testing, wherein earlier people were only doing the vulnerability testing. Now, what is that? Wherein when the application is in the QA stage, or when it's actually there in the stage where it's ready to go live, that time we were doing the pen testing. So you can imagine that in the a few years back that used to be the case, and I would say still some organizations are doing it. But then the kind of hacks that are happening, people are understanding that it's important to find and fix those bugs early. um, Now comes when we have to test a vulnerability in an application, which is exactly the replica of the live application or the application which is there on the internet. How would you test it? Is there any open source project that can help us? So ZAP is one open source project that can help us in testing the vulnerabilities in the QA stages. So security team often run dynamic application security tests to find the bugs and vulnerabilities just before the launch of a new product, new feature. So ZAP is a Java-based open source project that comes with an intuitive graphical interface that you can use, and you can start experiencing it. Now you must be thinking that, especially in QA stage, how it helps. So we can use it with Selenium. We can use it with any other QA product which can do the functional testing on the application. And it can be used with many other products and CI/CD pipelines like Jenkins. You can use it with many other tools that are placed in the functional testing stage. Now, there's one important aspect that I want to highlight, that there are few attack vectors which are part of the QA and or part of ZAP. And if you feel that it's still missing out on some, we can add some uh, mm, uh, some some sheets or some text files which are built by us. Like I have a sheet of 1500 or even more attack vectors which I keep uploading on Zap, or I keep it in Zap, and when I need to run a test, I actually run against them as well. So I automate the stuff with it. Now, OpenVAS is another full-featured vulnerability scanner. It's so it can help us with unauthenticated testing, authenticated testing, and it can do testing on huge applications as well. So we can fine-tune it for large-scale scans, and then it has multiple options which we can test it with. So you can actually check out OpenVAS as well. And then for now we have talked about the changing technologies, changing the era. So DocScan is a plugin based system for discovery, audit, and reporting the vulnerabilities in Docker installations. So that's one other important aspect when we are talking about open source. And then when we have done all of that, and then we don't look at the important aspect of defect tracking. Like we've found bugs in threat modeling, found bugs in application testing, source code review, everywhere. and we say that we'll fix it. Everything is over email. We don't track it. How bad that would be. It's like not checking it out at all. So the tools we shall use to create a DevOps pipeline will generate plenty of vulnerabilities, and each tool will have its own specific format. And there's one product, one open source software that can help us in joining all of that, is which is Defect Dojo. So when we have the vulnerability results, we need to store them somewhere. So this is one place we can store that, and it has templates, system for vulnerabilities. It has baseline self-service tools. It has important imports of common vulnerability scanners like Coalesce and many more. And then you can generate a beautiful report. And especially for, if we talk about leadership, they need numbers. They want to see the numbers. They want to see the changing numbers. They want to see the matrix. So it defines that. And Defect Dojo collects vulnerabilities in one single system. It enables the whole testing pipeline and can be really seamlessly integrated into it. And that the problem that we have seen with the duplicates, so it highlights that yes, it's a duplicate vulnerability, so that we don't need to look at twice, and we can mark it as a duplicate. So these quick statistics can help us keeping on top of the recent findings, ensuring that yes, the vulnerabilities count does not steadily creep on the weekly basis. So we understand, okay, these are the vulnerabilities which are already there, and these needs to be addressed. And if I talk about a startup or the companies which want to understand about defect tracking, this is one amazing software, open source software, which can be there. And then another important or amazing software by one of our known is Archery Sec, which is an open source a vulnerability scanner, and it performs web and network vulnerability scanning using multiple open source tools, and can act as a defect dojo as well. So correlates and collaborates all the row scan data, show them in a consolidated view, like you can see on the screen here. And it can be integrated with Jira. It can be integrated with like multiple other products. So it can be used as a vulnerability management system itself. Now, another important or amazing project is Jackhammer. So, one security vulnerability assessment management tool to figure out or to solve the security team problems. It can do static code analysis. It can do dynamic code analysis, dynamic analysis, not dynamic code analysis, but dynamic analysis with inbuilt vulnerability management capability. So we can actually take a look at it. And then comes the defensive side. Now we've done everything, but should we have some defensive mechanism? So defensive mechanism is equally important, wherein we are defending our applications. Even though we have checked everything, why not have a good system in place? So people talk about web application firewalls. So is there any system which can help us with the core rules? So mod security core rule set is the one project, or core rule set with mod security is one project by OWASP, which can help us in figuring out those top 10 bugs. It can provide the protection against the insecure web application design. So it has a set of rules that can provide a layer of protection for web applications, such as WordPress, PHP or any type of other web application. It can potentially protect against the vulnerabilities in out-of-date software, or the kind of attacks that we see, like denial of service attack. So mod security core rule sets are being used in many products. Even the top-notch WAFs, they use the core rule set rules by the team. Then comes the knowledge management. Why not enable teams on all these products, or give them some knowledge that can enable them on security? Because if you tell someone that so there's a person in development team or operations team, they've been doing something all their time in their career, and suddenly you say, do security, can you enforce it? Literally no. If you ask me, I wouldn't be able to do it if you just say that, if you force me to do something. So similarly, knowledge management is equally important. And so DevSecOps is one project which which provides the real-time knowledge on different aspects of security, and they keep covering different products on DevOps pipeline, DevSecOps pipeline. How do you develop it using AWS, Azure, IBM Cloud, or any other product? So they keep doing it. So it's like a real-time coverage. And then another thing is automation. So automated security checks should be featured during test and compliance checks. And security team can help in automating as much as humanly possible. Because if we don't automate, we will be lagging behind. And people say that if we automate, are we going to lose our job? No, we are not going to lose our job, but we'll have some time to do more of research, more of do something else which can help the organization grow further. So a comprehensive set of automated tests and checks can provide a pipeline with continuous assurance that yes, security is there. And security has to be tightly coupled with the developer-friendly tools like Jenkins, Jira, and other frequently used DevOps tools. We can fine-tune the tools once this automation is there. So that will be less of a task for us. And upon attaining a maturity level, we can insist that yes, the build breaks. So there is something called maturity levels. People talk about that yes, I am break the build because there was a critical vulnerability. You cannot just go ahead and do it. It's not at all suggestible. So you need to understand that what's important, where exactly we are, how much mature we are, and breaking the build, especially when we talk about shift left strategies, flaws discovery. So it's important to understand the maturity level and then start taking steps further. Automation is one that can help us. So when we are talking about automation, why not automating the infrastructure as a whole? So Clear, Anchor Engine, Data, OpenSCAP, all these things can actually help us in understanding and or create infrastructure through the code itself. Now comes an important aspect, which is secrets management. Now, if you have so many secrets and you don't keep it safely, anyone can access it. So these are some of the secrets management or products which can help. So in this, not all of them are open source, but then I mention it because they are really, really popular ones, and then they are helpful in some or the other way. Then comes compliance as a core. We generally tend to overlook the compliance aspect, and that can actually create a lot of concerns with compliances like HIPAA, PCI, SOX. So organizations need to comply or apply the compliance controls to understand their infrastructure, to abide by the industry best practices and with various regulations like PCI, HIPAA, SOX. So with infrastructure as a whole, in DevOps, the production environment can help us, and then similarly we can leverage the compliance support to abide by the compliance. And Inspect is one such tool which I've used, which can help us in performing these tests, and we only need to supply some files, and then it can give us the whole view of that how much compliant we are. Then comes improvement. We always learn from our mistakes, and a good way to address this is by bringing together development, operations team, and security team in a series of iterative DevSecOps. Yes, hi.
Your internet connection seems to be a little bit shaky.
Okay. Do you think that I should go ahead and change the internet connection?
You sound a little bit like a robot to us right now. So I think it would be good if you can double check if you yeah.
2 minutes. I'll just change my internet connection.
Yeah, cool.
Just a minute. Yeah.
Well, while we wait until the internet connection is back in, we've all been we've been testing out all the internet connections and all these streaming things, but you never really know what's going to happen, right? If you Feels like the internet can smell your fear. So we'll just give it a brief moment until she's back. So while we wait, how's everybody doing so far? Feel free to drop a message on general chat or on Twitter. We would love to know more about how you feel the conference is going so far and how we could have prevented this for next time. Always looking for feedback.
Can you hear me well now?
Yes, that is great. Okay, thank you. I will stop my my screen share now. Did I share? Yes.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
All right. Let me share my screen.
Yeah. See your screen
Perfect.
now. Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that.
No
I'm sorry about this. These are some problems with the remote connections.
It happens. Don't worry about it. Just take it over. You pick it up where you left off, and well.
Oh, perfect. Sure. Thank you. So,
no
yeah. Thank you so much, Dominique. Education and opportunity to learn should be provided for everyone. Development team, operations team, or anyone, even architects, they should understand that yes, this is what security is all about, and it's not enforcing. It's all about working together, working on the feedbacks that okay, this worked out.
Yeah, sorry,
this did
Vandana.
not work out.
We're seeing the no, we're not seeing the presentation mode. We're seeing the slides and the PowerPoint. So if you can switch, maybe it's in the other screen.
Okay, give me one
So
second.
we can see the slides, but we see the full PowerPoint interface rather than just the slides.
Okay.
Probably just need to click present or something.
Can you see it now?
Not yet. Still seeing PowerPoint.
No, not yet.
Maybe if you stop sharing and then have the
Understood.
Yeah.
Yes, understood.
Yeah, sorry
understood.
about that.
No problem. That happens. Okay. Share your screen again. Hope
All
this
right.
is better now.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Now, when we have talked about all of this, there's one important aspect that we need to address, which is the cultural challenges. When we say that developers need to understand this, we need to have inclusive culture. There is something that the top leadership also needs to understand, that if the team is saying something, they need to address all those challenges. There need to be transparency in what we are communicating. The barriers has to be broken down, wherein if the team says that we need this product in house, so we can select, okay, this is the product that that is possible or not as per the revenue, or can we sponsor it or not. If no, then what's the reason? Let's go ahead and say no. If yes, we can sponsor it, then the teams can ask yes. The team can showcase and share that okay, this is what we have done to achieve certain level, and this product can help us in getting ahead further. So everyone is doing it what they are doing it on a day-to-day basis, but there's something different that can be done by cultural shift, wherein the top leadership says or are aligned with the development teams, operations team, and security team. They sit on the same table and discuss. Leaders can allow developers to make their own decisions. There can be this barrier can be broken down easily. And now when we talk about the leaders understand, security understands, the team needs to be the team need autonomy, not bureaucracy. Now what I meant by it, that there need to be some solution wherein the teams can make their own choices and can be equipped with different factors, or where they can choose that this is something is very important for the pipeline which should be used, so they can propose it. They should have those free hand where they can do some experiments within it. There has to be some time that should be given to them to experience these open source projects, so that then they can finalize, okay, this product can help us in understanding our own environment. Because a lot of times I've seen that people talk about that we need DevOps, we need DevSecOps, but they don't understand their environment well. They have no idea what's running in the environment. And because everyone is doing it, everyone is in the rat race, so they just go ahead with it. So everyone in the organization should have a say in the game when it comes to security. And ground workers can actually work very closely with the leadership to attain that. So we can make security as everyday's job, wherein it is not seen as like an outsider, that security is an outsider thing, and we cannot consider it at each stage. Now, there is one amazing thing that I've learned by working on DevSecOps, that if we have security champions in different teams, they can help us building a secure system. How? I'll give you one of the cases wherein I was working with the development team and operations team. Like, I was attending one of the Scrum calls, and that day there was one discussion which was supposed to happen for an important release. And when I reached for the Scrum call was over, because it was preponed and security was not told about it, or because security was seen as a showstopper. Then we started having discussions with them, and we did a lot of iterations. And then later on, we started creating security champions and teams, wherein they used to tell us, this is something which is coming up, can you please help us out, or this is my understanding. And I am sure there is one person in the different teams that can help you becoming a sponsor for them, and we can invite them to our own parties wherein we discuss about security discussions happen, and then we can empower them, so that we can have one system which can help us in stability, increase uptime, and then all of this which is needed for DevSecOps. And that's what helps us in DevSecOps. Now, this is the sample DevSecOps architecture, which can help us, and we can see that we can leverage pre-commit hooks, ID plugins, code repos, pre-built, post-built testing, wherein we are doing static analysis, we are doing software composition analysis, we are doing dynamic analysis testing, and not to miss artifact repository using Defect Dojo and many more products. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. I am sure there might be a lot of questions which you have, and if you want to ask me anything, you can reach me on Twitter anytime. My Twitter DMs are open. I'm there on LinkedIn. Feel free to drop me a note. I am very much reachable. So these are some great places where I keep reading about different aspects of open source tools. And thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Vandana. That was great. I was hoping that we may have got some questions from the audience, because there's a bunch of people watching. But I think we've got time for a couple of questions before we head over to the break. So I would like to kick it off for the people watching. Go to the speaker Q&A channel to ask your questions, and on the Twitch channel you can ask their questions as well. But could you tell me a bit more about how does dependency check integrate with solutions like SonarQube or Aqua Security?
See, dependency check, if I talk about it, it is a product which you can download it from the GitHub, and then you can run it on the repository which has the source code, because we don't know what are the dependencies which are there in the source code, because if you know it, then you don't need that. So it checks that these are the dependencies which are there, and then it checks out that which are the old ones and highlight the risks on them. There is one important aspect is that there are a lot of organizations which keep enterprise application libraries, wherein they know, okay, this is the version, this is the software that we have built, this is the version that we have built, and these are the things that we have made changes to. I've seen a lot of teams doing it, but then a lot of teams are not able to maintain those application libraries. So at that time, this dependency check helps. And then when it comes to commercial tools, they do have some edge over it, but then at least you can understand that this is what you need. Because
Yeah.
if you don't know what you need, especially from the software composition analysis, you'll just spending money on the commercial tools.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks. Any other questions, people? I think people are just like still waking up. Mark, do you have any more questions?
No, nothing on my side. But thank you very much, Vandana. Really, really appreciate
Mark?
it. Yeah, sorry.
I'm guessing
there you go.
that's a
I
no?
just need to unmute on the right places. Sorry about that. So yeah, no more questions from me. But thank you very much, Vandana. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you as well. It was very enlightening.